That's the Des Moines International Airport. Despite the name, there are 0 international flights.
Hi, everybody. DUGROZ here with DUGROZ Reports. Lots of YouTubers in the points and miles space will say something like this. Pick an airline, get their credit card, and chase loyalty status. But if you live in a location with a regional non-hub airport like I do, that advice might be wrong. Now, I tracked all of my flights since the beginning of 2022, and in those 4 years, I took 22 domestic flights. And the airline that I use breaks out as follows. I flew American 36% of the time, Delta 26% of the time, Southwest 22% of the time, and United 16% of the time. Do you see a pattern here? Not really. The only pattern is that there's no pattern. Who exactly am I supposed to be loyal to? Now, before we dive in on this particular YouTube channel, I talk about finding epic value, including, but not limited to, credit card rewards for the average American. If that sounds interesting to you, please click the thumbs up button and please subscribe to the channel. Let's keep going. That's not loyalty. That's survival. Now, Des Moines is a regional airport. It's not a hub. It's not dinky tiny, so there's not just one airline. There's probably 12 to 20 flights a day, depending on the day of the week, the time of the year, and a variety of other factors. But there are limited non-stop options. For most trips, I'm going to have one good routing, maybe 2 to choose from. As an example, I might want to fly somewhere in the Northeast. So I could fly from Des Moines to Detroit on Delta and then have a layover and continue on from there. Or I could fly from Des Moines to New York City on American, have a layover and continue on from there. There might be a decent option on United, but odds are it's going through Newark, and I don't want to take a 45-minute Uber ride across town to get to LaGuardia. So those might be the only 2 options in that particular type of scenario. So I have limited routing to choose from without going way out of my way. If I'm flying to Albany, New York, I don't want to have a layover in Dallas, for example. Some trips I might fly to my destination on one airline and then fly back on another airline, depending on a combination of where the layover is, what points I have available, if I have any credits left over, those kind of things, or just where I'm starting versus where I'm ending. I optimize for routing and the schedule, not the brand. Now, if I lived in a hub, it would be different. Like if I lived in Atlanta and wanted to fly on Delta a lot, that would make sense. Or if I lived in Dallas, Texas and wanted to fly on American a lot, that would make sense. But it really doesn't make sense for me. Another factor is that I fly only about 3 to 7 times a year, and the status math just doesn't always work for me. A lot of people chase status for free checked bags. My kids are now teenagers, and my family's gotten pretty good at putting everything in a carry-on bag, so I don't really need checked bags. As it relates to lounge access, yes, it can be nice to get into a Delta lounge or a United lounge or an American lounge or something like that. But I also fly to a lot of smaller cities, so the only place there's going to be a lounge is on the layover, not at the point of departure. Des Moines doesn't have any lounges at all, so I don't need to worry about loyalty there. And for the rest, I feel like credit card lounge access is good enough. Most of my flying is solo, except for one big family trip a year. So if I go with something like Capital One, they have a lounge in Dallas. They have a lounge in Denver. They have a lounge at Reagan National in New York in the form of an escape type lounge, the restauranty one. Don't remember what they call them, but that's usually good enough for me. Yeah, there'll be a couple layovers, like I'm flying through Chicago Midway later this year, and I think maybe there's a crappy Priority Pass lounge, but good enough. I don't have to have a lounge. every single time. And sometimes my layovers aren't long enough to hit up the lounge anyway. So lounge access is kind of a secondary thing, although I do like to take a shower in a Capital One lounge if I can. Some people chase status for the sake of upgrades, but I feel like those are too infrequent to count on when I'm talking about only flying 3 to 7 times a year. Let's say I did chase status with American and I was hoping for an upgrade to premium economy or business class. If I'm only flying 4 times a year, what are the odds I'm going to get a meaningful upgrade on one of those? It might happen one time, but doggone it, I'm the kind of person, I like guaranteed upgrades. I don't want to pay for something and then have a possibility of an upgrade. Now, if I flew for work 100 times a year, that would be different, but I just don't fly enough that upgrades are a big deal. Let me use an example here. A couple years ago, I flew to the Gulf Shores. This would be the area around Panama City Beach and Pensacola, Florida, over into Gulf Shores, Alabama, Foley, Alabama, that kind of area. On the way down, I flew Southwest with a layover in St. Louis and then ended up in Panama City Beach because my first trip was to the lighthouse in Port St. Joe, which is to the east. So I needed to fly into Panama City, spent the night there in Panama City, drove over to the area closer to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and spent my next 2 nights there. And then when I was done, I drove to Pensacola, which was a lot closer, and flew home from there on American with a layover in Dallas. And I was able to visit the Capital One lounge there. So down on one airline into one airport, rented a car, transitioned to a different airport for the way home, and came back on a different airline. That kind of setup is fairly common for me. I usually go to smaller places, especially my 2 or 3 solo trips a year. That's what optimizing per trip looks like as opposed to optimizing for loyalty. For small airport travelers like myself, flexibility beats loyalty. I'm a free agent. I'm not loyal to one airline. In my case, transferable points beat co-branded cards. And what I mean by that is earning things like Capital One miles, Chase Ultimate Rewards, or City Thank You points is better than earning points with American or United or something along those lines. To be a little more specific, I can transfer from City over to American. I can transfer from Chase to United. I can transfer from Chase to Southwest. But a lot of times the best option is going to be a cash booking or some sort of pseudo cash booking. Like if I book through a portal of some kind, I might use my Aeroplan card to pay myself back. I might just pay the cash rate and take it out of my travel savings account if that's more appropriate. Like I have a card that's an old grandfathered card, the Golden Ponies card with Wells Fargo that gives me 1.5 cents per point on flights in the Wells Fargo portal. The purpose of this video is not to go into the strategy, just to explain that those proprietary bank cards almost always beat airline specific co-branded cards for me. Now, a small disclaimer here, if you live in an even smaller airport that's basically dominated by one airline, something like Fort Dodge, Iowa, or Salina, Kansas, with only a handful of flights per day, status might actually make sense for you. If they're only served by United, you might want United status. But in a mid-size airport like Des Moines, where it's not a hub, but several airlines compete, flexibility tends to win. You don't need to force a system that doesn't fit your geography. If you live in a non-hub city, I'd love to hear how you handle this. Please put a comment down below and let me know what kind of strategy you've gone with if you're in a situation similar to mine and what airport you tend to regularly fly out of. Now, if you enjoyed this video and this type of content, you would love to be a DUGROZ diehard. What's a DUGROZ diehard, you ask? Well, it's my one and only one channel membership level. It's $3 a month and you can cancel anytime. Just click the join button down below on any of my videos. You will get access to over 60 members only videos that have more detailed strategy, philosophy in terms of how I think through my points and miles and credit card application strategy and things along those lines, as well as most of my videos get released at least a full day early to channel members. Plus, it's just a great way to support the channel. If you could do me a favor and click the thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to this channel on the way out the door, I would appreciate it. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks.